Welcome to our latest edition of the America East Cats Chats. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Ryan Odom from UMBC. And the Retrievers, off to a 6-2 start, are essentially at the halfway point of the America East season with wins over Vermont and Stony Brook. Those are the two teams also with UMBC chasing, at this point it seems, for the title. But there's some injuries early. Ryan, where would you assess where this team is at right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing fairly well. We're off to a good start in the first half of the season. Obviously 6-2, given the circumstances and some of the guys that we've lost due to injury. Certainly we'll take it at this point. We've got a very competitive league this year. A lot of good teams, and we're pleased with where we're at. But we understand, it's a long conference season.
There's a lot of expectation, obviously, because of what occurred last year with the historic upset over Virginia. How did you think your team handled the first part of the season where there was all this attention on UMBC that didn't exist before?
Yeah, I think the guys did fairly well with it. We tried to separate the two the best we could. Obviously, you can't really it's not something you can really prepare for. You kind of just have to go through it and experience it. We had a lot of new faces, within the program. Some guys that returned. We had two starters, really three if you count Dan Ocken, three starters that returned from last year's team. But Dan wasn't healthy, so Dan missed the first 12 games of the season, and so he wasn't around. We certainly missed him. Max Curran filled in his position, and then the day that we finally got fully healthy, Max gets hurt. And so we lose Max Curran for the season. And then 7 games after that, Dan Ocken is now out for the remainder of the season. And one other guy, Brandon Horvath, has been hurt, as you know. He was averaging 11 a game, off the bench for us. And so, we've had kind of 3 different teams, throughout this season. But all in all, I feel like they've handled it really well. I always, of course, want them to be proud of what happened last year. But, obviously, as you know, that's not helping us right now. Got some really good teams that we're playing against.
Well, so you already have those wins. They're in the bank. But to be able to maintain that, to be able to compete with them for a top seed come tournament time, what has to change in this sort of third version, this 3.0 version of UMBC, to make sure that you can knock off teams like that, including Hartford later this week, but to be a top 3, finisher in this league?
Yeah, I think we have to be balanced, well balanced on both sides of the ball. Certainly our identity is kind of tied to our defense at this point. We've really, I think one of the changes that I've noticed within this team is just their sense of urgency. They've got a sense of urgency more than they did earlier in the season on every play. And when you do that, you give yourself a chance. We've struggled offensively this season. It is what it is. I feel like our guys are getting better on that side of the ball. We are taking care of it a little bit better, than we did earlier in the season. But defensively is kind of where we're hanging our hat, right now. And our guys are doing a nice job on that side of the ball.
Ryan, I asked this question to John Becker and Jeff Bowles of Vermont and Stony Brook, that as great as your run was and that win, you were still a 16 seed. And that's not where the America East wants to be. Based on what you've seen so far this season, those non-conference wins, certainly by Stony Brook, the way Vermont has played overall, what's your sense here or optimism that the America East won't be in that position to pull off a historic win because there'll be a higher seed in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, honestly, going back to last season, had you asked me prior to the tournament, were we going to be a 16 seed? I probably would have said no. I would have felt like we would have been a 15 seed. And it didn't happen. Certainly, we weren't going to complain about it. You're happy to just be in the tournament at that point. But, yeah, certainly our goals are bigger in the America East to have a higher seed. We feel like we've got a really competitive conference and a lot of good players throughout the conference. And you want to be in that, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15 range, where you feel like you got a fighting chance. And certainly 16 is not where we want to be every year. But, it was lucky last year for us, obviously. And we're not going to complain about it. That's for sure.
Ryan, I know you don't control the social media account, but what have you seen in terms of the tangible benefits from what occurred last year? Because social media wise, UMBC, the Retrievers, you guys are still sort of, a bit of a cult following and reacting to things that are outside your sphere and still being relevant.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Zach Seidel he's done an amazing job, with our account there, and he keeps, everybody on their toes. That's for sure, and he keeps UMBC kind of in the mix a little bit there. We want to continue to operate with an air of humility. I think that's the biggest thing. Last year was last year, but at the same time, we want to try to continue to grow the program, and I think he's doing a great job of helping us with that. Certainly we don't have to really explain who we are anymore, which is something that I think is great for our university as a whole. It's an area that can help from an admission standpoint and just overall, knowledge of our school and all the cool things that are happening here.
Ryan, I appreciate it. Good luck against Hartford later this week. And I think we'll be talking as we get closer to the tournament.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy. Appreciate you having me on.